there potential for Russia's vaccine to be tested in South Africa? And can we trust it, considering the fact that it's not amongst the World Health Organization's 6 vaccines that have reached phase 3 of clinical trials, which involves more widespread testing in humans? Joining me now to talk about this is the Vice President for the Research at the South African Medical Research Council, Professor Jeffery Mphahlele. Professor Mphahlele, good evening and thank you for your time tonight. The announcement by Russian President Vladimir Putin did not provoke the awe and the wonder. Instead, it was met with doubt about the science and the safety. Why?
Yeah, good evening. I think it's because of one reason. Very few people, if any, understand what the vaccine is about. We don't know much about the vaccine. We don't know how the vaccine is made, how it was tested, and what is the immune response to this vaccine. That's why it's met with some kind of skepticism.
What we do know is that the health regulator in that country says it is safe and effective. We can't take their word for it?
We can't take their word for it, although we can say that it remains to be tested in other countries, maybe, because the little bit of information that we have is that this vaccine hasn't been really tested for a long time. As you know, that the road to testing the vaccine and eventually licensing the vaccine is quite long. Even if during the COVID time, this road has been very, very narrowed in many ways and is shortened. It's still long. I mean, we're talking about something like a year to 18 months to really develop a vaccine from phase 1 to phase 3.
Yeah. So vaccines, Prof, that are developed with that sort of extensive trials that is typically required, do they work? Will it work? And what if it does?
I wouldn't say that the vaccine wouldn't work. I think at the moment, we just don't know enough about this vaccine. If you look at the literature and check whether the vaccine has been, the results have been published, there is very little that you can actually come about regarding the vaccine. So because of that, we just don't know the kind of immune response this vaccine can elicit, and also if the vaccine can actually protect against COVID-19.
Yeah.
And as I said, it hasn't been that long that this vaccine was tested.
All right. What we are also hearing is that there was some kind of rapid phase 1 and 2 clinical trials on a small number of people, and why that is a concern, that it was only tried on a small number of people. Just outline for us the importance of that rapid phase 1 and phase 2 trial.
So that is normal. So in phase 1, a clinical trial, you usually test the vaccine in about 100 to 200 individuals. And then for phase 2, you have to increase the number. And after that, you go for extended phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trials, where you test the vaccine in thousands and thousands of participants. So we doubt if that has taken place. So yes, it could have been tested in small group of participants, but this would be mainly looking at the safety of the vaccine and to a limited extent, the immune response to the vaccine. But as I say, little is known about this vaccine.
Yeah. The role of competition in vaccine development. The Russian health minister saying the criticism is groundless against this vaccine, and it is driven by competition. How much of it is about competition, about who's first in line, and therefore maybe wanting to protect even the data from the competition?
It is true that the competition is probably there for the countries to show that they can actually come up with a vaccine. And if you are first in the queue, of course, is some kind of I would say that you will take credit for that as a country. But remember that you don't want to do this with a pharmaceutical product like a vaccine, because if you say that you have got a vaccine, it means you have tested it for safety, quality, and efficacy. And these three components, it doesn't look like they've all been assessed thoroughly with this Russian vaccine. And as I say, from the distance, we say it looks like because we don't have the information.
Yeah. Of course, the CEO of the World Fund that is funding this project conceding to that fact that, yes, indeed, they have not released that data, saying it will be available by August. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has called for a review of the vaccine. What does that process actually mean?
So the process is actually to look at the scientific data that has been generated with this vaccine candidate, including how the vaccine was actually made. So I guess the World Health Organization would like to impress upon themselves that the vaccine has been constructed in a scientifically accepted manner. It has been tested in preclinical stage, in other words, in the lab or in animals for safety before it was tested in humans. And in humans, it has been tested according to the standards that we all are aware of, which are international standards.
Now, with the Russia vaccine, the little information that has been released, Prof, is that it uses the adapted strains of the adenovirus, a virus that is usually found that causes the common cold. Are you familiar with that technology and whether it could work in the case of COVID-19?
Well, the technology is quite used widely in vaccine development. In fact, it has been used for developing HIV vaccine candidates, although we don't have any HIV vaccine licensed at the moment. And it is also being used to develop other COVID-19 vaccines. In fact, the Oxford vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines are all using this technology. In other words, they're using a backbone of adenovirus, which is just a virus that causes common cold, which is usually mild in individuals.
The financial implications of a first country to come up with a coronavirus vaccine, I'm sure they are huge, and that could also largely be the driving factor.
It could be the driving factor because when you develop a vaccine, you invest millions and millions of dollars, if not billions. And once the vaccine is licensed, you need to recoup that money that you used for research and development. Unfortunately, with COVID-19 vaccine, it may not necessarily be the way other vaccines have been constructed and manufactured. Because we all think that any vaccine against COVID-19 should be regarded as a public good. This doesn't mean that the vaccine should be manufactured free of charge, because there isn't anything like that. But the companies shouldn't be looking at making lots and lots of profit from the vaccine, because the vaccine should be made available to the world, rich and poor countries. It has to be financed in any way, but there will be a different mechanism, for raising the finance for this vaccine. So it will not be the usual way.
And Prof, tell us then about the timelines instead, or in the case of the Oxford vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson, which I believe South Africa is directly involved with.
Well, for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, at26 is also adeno-based vaccine. The timelines is around September, early October, depending on whether all the approval processes would have been granted. Because at the moment, I think the vaccine is with the National Regulatory Authority, SAPRA. And other regulatory authorities like the Ethics Committee. So once the approval has been granted, it looks like the vaccine trial will start either late September or early October.